Good evening, folks. Thanks very much for tuning into this weather video. I'll be doing this every day if people enjoy it, and it'll be twice a day. We're looking at a short-term forecast and a long-term forecast as well. Now, the short-term forecast will focus on any severe weather events in the upcoming short term, so between today and sort of 4 days away. So in this case, it'll be between today and Thursday, and we'll also look at the general weather overview as well. But particularly, as I say, focusing on those risks. The longer term forecast is going to be slightly different because we don't focus on exacts in a long term forecast science. We focus on trends and we look at the data, see where all the data is going, and then we try and predict what's going to happen. It's not certainty. I'm not saying short term is a certainty because it's far from it, but it's much less certain than the short term forecast. So we look at the teleconnections. That's stuff like the NAO. You may be familiar with the NAO. Stuff like the MJO, the Madden-Julian oscillation, and also the longer range forecast output, as well as the medium range models like the ECM, the GFS, and see what their pressure is generally colluding to in that respect. So without further ado then, let's get on with the first video. So at the moment we've got the GFS perturbations up here. This is just different model runs within the model. So we have 22 different runs within this GFS model, and it really helps forecasters gather confidence or a lack of confidence about a forecast, because when you have all the perturbations colluding to the same condition like we have at the start of the forecast there, it means we've got good confidence in the forecast compared to where we have less confidence in the forecast. Now, we know that because we have a large spread, what we call ensemble spread in the conditions, and in that case we have less certainty about what the forecast might give us. So one would interpret this chart and say that there's a good tight pack there within the ensemble, different perturbations. There's a good certainty of cold conditions for the rest of this week. Cold for May, this is for London, highs are between 10 and 15. That's pretty cold. The average will be between 15 and 20 in normal circumstances. So we're in a cold air mass. However, there is moderate confidence, and I say moderate because there is a good certainty for those temperatures to increase. The only uncertainty is sort of in the intervariability in that warmth. So rather than seeing 18, we could see sort of 15.5 sort of thing. So that's where the moderate confidence comes from. Good confidence, but not good precision. So I think we've got good confidence that it'll turn warmer, but not very good precision on what those temperatures will be, which is usually, quite frankly, the case in these forecasts. So temperatures will creep slowly up towards that 20-degree mark going through the week. And one could further interpret this by saying, well, if we take those 20, there's a 25% chance there because, whoops, where's it gone now? There's a 25% chance because 5 of the ensemble members are going above 20, and there's a 25% chance that we'll see highs less than 15 because a fourth of them are going below 15. So we could do all that sort of complicated stuff, but I'm not going to focus on that. I'm just going to interpret it for you, and there's good confidence that it'll remain cold for the remainder of this week, and then next week temperatures will start to increase, and that should happen by the 16th. So you can see here by the 16th temperatures are starting to increase, and it will feel warmer too because that wind is going to start to moderate. The wind is a significant part, and if can we look at the wind here? Yeah, we can look at the 10-meter wind speed, and as you can see here, the wind is really quite strong at the moment. It will knock down tomorrow, and then it'll be back up again for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So really strong winds. But although the temperature might not be that much higher during the weekend, the fact that the wind has come down from sort of 15 miles an hour to sort of 3 miles an hour will have a really significant impact on the feel of conditions. So we may only go from 15 to 16, but it may feel like temperature could have gone from 30 to 21, especially when you factor in the fact that it's been very windy and dark to quite sunny and calm, which really does improve the condition and the feel of the weather. So the feel of the weather will be significantly better for the weekend for most of us. But I think because we've still got high pressure sort of in place, it will generally still feel quite cold at night, which we have that cooling take place in the atmosphere when skies are clear. So to summarise for the rest of this week then, Monday and Tuesday are both cold days. Wednesday is cold too. The difference is on Wednesday it's going to be turning that bit more drabbier across the UK. We have that weather front sinking south Tuesday night, and on Wednesday we see those dreary conditions, I think, for many of you. Behind it, of course, Scotland and Northern Ireland becoming that bit better. Now for Thursday, another one of those cold sort of days, but the low pressure, the cold front has moved out of the way, so I think we're going to see generally decent conditions, but the wind is going to be more sort of westerly. So what we'll see on Thursday really is more of a wet weather system heading towards northern parts of the country. So Scotland, Northern Ireland will be on the sort of having the ocean wind coming there. So there we'll see more cloud, whereas for England and Wales we really got quite a long land run of wind. So we should see not much in the way of cloud on Thursday, though there could be some rain down the North Sea. Heading into Friday, then another similar day on Friday actually. High pressure is still in charge there across the UK. The only difference is the high pressure is further south and east. So temperatures again should start to pick up as that cold air mass is still in place across the UK, but it's becoming mixed. It's not becoming really replaced because the wind isn't that strong. It's mixing with this more maritime air mass. So it'll feel less cold, less viciously cold. That cold is related to the dew points in particular. So as those dew points increase, the temperatures slowly pick up. It will feel a lot better on Friday, and added to that, the winds will be a lot lighter on Friday too. So much more pleasant conditions. Now heading through towards the weekend, this is when the change really starts to happen. High pressure nudges further and further into the UK, and it's not just that the pressure will be that bit higher and the clouds will be less as a result, but we'll also see more of a southwesterly airflow. Now this is really seen nicely when we look at the upper air temperatures. Those are really quite cold at the moment. Look at those upper air temperatures, still flirting with that cold air through the rest of the week, and then by the weekend we see that less cold air coming in. So temperatures I think will probably quite easily get up to 20 degrees Celsius on Sunday. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it will be much warmer by the weekend, so much more pleasant conditions. So looking further ahead then, well, if we go back to the NAO spread, sorry, not the NAO spread, the temperature spread, as you can see there is good consensus there that pressure and temperature will remain decent through the remainder of the upcoming week. However, there is something that's making me a little bit uncertain. I'll talk about that now. That's the NAO. Now, the NAO has been negative for quite some time. It's been negative since the start of April. When we have a negative NAO, we have lower pressure in place over Spain, higher pressure over Iceland. I like to think of it as though when we have a negative NAO, Spain is negative, so we have less. We have no holidays taking place. Not saying that there would be a holiday right now, but when the NAO is negative, Spain's negative. So we think of it in that way, and it's easy to think about. We have higher pressure over Iceland. When the NAO is positive, we've got nice weather over Spain, and it's good there, and we've got lower pressure over Iceland. So the condition at the moment is that we have got this negative NAO in place. As you can see here, if we just decode it, the pressure across Iceland is about 1,030, across Spain it's about 1,010. So we are seeing that negative NAO in place, and because of the way pressure moves around pressure, we then see easterly winds in place. And then, for example, of a positive NAO, this would be one where we have pressure around 1,020 millibars over Spain and 1,015 over Iceland. So we've got a positive pressure difference, and that brings the pressure around in a clockwise motion over the UK and gives us these drier conditions. So that's the real idea behind this warm up in temperature as we head through towards the weekend. And how long that will last, that's the uncertainty. Now the weather model output is suggesting that this could last for quite a long time. If we have a look at the moyennes, which is the means, as you can see, we are seeing this continuation of high pressure right through towards the middle part of next week. This is going through into Wednesday, Thursday next week. High pressure is remaining in charge. Now, however, the NAO has been negative for quite some time, and when it's negative for these longer periods, we usually see it last quite negative for quite long. It is an oscillation. So as you can see here, we've had it quite high through the for the sort of February March period. Now we're seeing this drop off in the NAO, and this could last for quite some time potentially. And that's where the uncertainty comes in place. We just can't decode it that much, and that's where the uncertainty generally comes from. But in my opinion, I think we're going to see this continuation of drier conditions. However, because of the fact the NAO has been negative for quite some time and the polar vortex has been misbehaving in the last few months, I do think there is an increased chance of still quite a lot of sort of vorticity in the jet stream moving through in terms of its strength. So I think we're going to see this sort of fluctuating scenario where, yes, we do see some unsettled conditions, but we also always have this high pressure influence to the south. So we could potentially set up through towards the next week period, so running from the 18th onwards, this sort of oscillation where we see warmer conditions in the south, not oscillation, this contrast where we see this warmth in the south and these slightly less warm conditions with some Atlantic air further north. So potentially very nice in the south for some time, and in the north, sort of a fluctuation between warm and dry conditions. Temperatures, I don't think will be overly warm. I think we're likely to see temperatures close to the seasonal average, perhaps even a little bit below across Scotland and Northern Ireland. So I hope that gives you some idea on the forecast. Just as an extension, let's look at the MJO. This basically shows us what the Madden-Julian oscillation is. That's of course what the MJO is doing. Now the MJO is basically an oscillation of pressure and temperature in the tropical regions in the stratosphere. And when the MJO is in the center circle, it means that it's fairly weak. So we don't have much of an influence of the MJO. I'd like to think there's a sort of magnitudes going outwards. So when we're in this 4 region here, we'd have a high magnitude MJO, and it's currently there in the sort of week 1 period. And we know it's in the week 1 because it's close to the center, and dates are marked there by little dots. And you can see here that as we go through the rest of May, we see those little dots moving in towards phase 6 and 7. So that just could increase our high pressure chances potentially through towards the remainder of May. However, there isn't a very strong signal for the rest of May. However, what I would go for as far as saying is that there could potentially be an increased high pressure dominance across the country. There is certainly an abundance of high pressure at the moment, but I think there is some consensus to see that high pressure moving across the country potentially to give us some sort of better conditions. But the way the atmosphere is going right now, it does look as though that might not last all that long. So it could be that we see a breakdown again sort of by the 22nd, 23rd, but I'm not going to put any bets on that. What I'm saying at the moment is a cold rest of the week, milding up in towards the weekend, potentially quite warm next week, and then we see this sort of battle take place between the Atlantic and high pressure to the southwest, southeast, which could give us some warm conditions in the south and east, and much colder further northwest. So tomorrow we'll be doing the short term and the long term too. Now tomorrow will be quite interesting because we could get to see the first May snowfall in the UK, significant snowfall for quite some time. It will be the north of Scotland on high ground, but it will be quite interesting to see. So I hope to see you then tomorrow. Thanks very much for tuning in.